He never looks like he's going to score today. Never.
Nicolas Jackson, brilliantly put away.
He's just not a natural, confident finisher.
Free header! Jackson 3-2.
Jackson can't hit a barn door.
Crusader for Jackson, that's a lovely ball. He's onside Nicolas Jackson.
Top striker with Premier League experience. We don't have that. Jackson is not going to get us that.
Jackson through again here. Beautifully worked. Jackson for 2.
Mikal, you've created an absolute monster here of a striker.
Nicolas Jackson is one of the most disrespected players in the world. He is a player who is consistently marked for his misses, yet never appreciated when he scores. Despite outperforming the majority of strikers in the Premier League, he continues to be seen as a meme. He got 14 goals in his first Premier League season, but the way that people were talking about him, you would have thought that Chelsea were playing a Make-A-Wish kid up front. But what if I told you, despite the lack of respect he gets from people outside of Chelsea, he is following in a similar path to one of the greatest players to have ever played for the Blues.
Unless I do what he have done, that's when I will compare myself to him. I hope so. I will be like him.
When Nicolas Jackson signed for Chelsea, fans didn't know what to expect. He had come at a time where it felt like every single day a new signing was being announced, and most fans were hoping for a more well-known striker, someone like a Victor Osimhen. Well, Jackson, he couldn't have been further from a big name. His journey is a story of rags to riches, a very similar path to that of Didier Drogba. Jackson began playing the sport in the streets of Gambia. No coaches, no rules, just him playing with his mates.
Started playing football since when I was young, Yeah, always. Like in Africa, it's like a tradition. Like, we play every time in the street and all that, so.
He didn't even own football boots. He would be dominating kids playing either in school shoes or with his bare feet. It wasn't until he moved to Senegal at the age of 16 that he actually joined an organized club. ASC Telen became his first club and his first experience of organized football. Drogba also moved from a local youth team to a semi-professional club. Just like Jackson, Drogba had never attended a football academy and only had begun daily football training as an adult. Like, let me put it into perspective. Jackson joining an organized club at the age of 16 is already pretty late, considering most top prospects are already shining at that age. Meanwhile, Drogba was in his 20s when he signed his first ever professional contract in 1999. Now at Telen, Jackson became one of their top players. His talent was too good to ignore. His big break came when he was spotted by former Fulham striker Kamara at a local tournament. Kamara helped Jackson get his first opportunity at professional football, joining Casa Sports in the first division of Senegal. He played really well there and soon came approaches from Europe. In September of 2019, Jackson joined Villarreal in La Liga, being assigned to the under-19 squad. So Jackson was actually ahead of schedule when compared to Drogba. At just the age of 18, he was joining a top Spanish club, while Drogba at the same age was still playing for a semi-professional club in France. Now Jackson was finally at a European club in the top division, his first experience within a proper structured academy system. But this transition, it was difficult. Jackson was used to playing with complete freedom with his buddies, but now he had to adapt to a disciplined training regimen and higher tactical expectations. He essentially had to relearn everything about football. It was a significant shift from the street football he used to play as a kid. The transition was also tough due to the cultural and language barriers. Jackson felt lonely, he was unfamiliar with the food, he wasn't around his friends. In an effort to improve his development, Jackson was loaned to Segunda Division side Mirandes for the 2020-2021 season, but it continued to be a difficult journey for the Senegalese. Imagine only being 19, isolated by the pandemic, and struggling to shake off injuries, in a city with freezing temperatures a long way from the home he had recently left. Stuff like that impacts your play. It's why Jackson only got 1 goal from Mirandes. Limited to just 17 games, that year wasn't fun for him, but it shaped him to who he is today. You see, when he returned to Villarreal, even the staff members said that the Jackson who left on loan and the Jackson that came back were not the same person. He now began to understand the language better. He was putting on more muscle. But the real change that really transformed his game was a tactical one. The Spanish side stopped playing him on the wing and began to use him more centrally. He was absolutely killing it on the Villarreal B team, picking up 7 goals and 8 assists as he helped them clinch promotion to the second division. His performances were so good that now he was being called up to the first team. Unai Emery, the Villarreal manager at the time, helped Jackson become a more complete player. He shaped both his mindset and ability in game. It was Emery that had given Jackson 8 starts in the first 9 games of the season as a central striker. But Jackson's form really exploded late in the 2023 season, with 9 goals in 9 matches, solidifying Villarreal's top 5 finish in La Liga. A goal against Espanyol,
And he reinstates Villarreal's lead. That
finish from Nicolas Jackson.
2 against Celta Vigo.
A chance here for Nicolas Jackson. He's through on goal. It must be the opening goal of the game, and it is. Nicolas Jackson beginning to dominate here. It's a lovely ball through, and Jackson for the second. He goes round.
Another against Valencia.
Well, a may drop here for Nicolas Jackson, and he finds the back of the net.
2 against Athletic Bilbao.
For the finish. A cursory check to the far side from Nico Jackson. Strange. And once again, it's tapped into the net by Nico Jackson.
2 more against Cadiz.
Nico Jackson with a fine individual strike.
And another against Atletico. Then 2 assists against Girona. In those final 9 games, the only time that Jackson either didn't get a goal or assist was against Rayo Vallecano. At that time, there was no one in better form than Jackson. He had individually outscored the entire Chelsea team during that period. Sorry guys, I mean, you're better now, so we can laugh about it. Keep in mind, early in the season, he didn't have anywhere close to this level of output. Then mid-season, he was dealing with hip problems. But in those last matches, he had shown enough to attract interest from abroad. There was something about the way he played, the electricity, the energy, the excitement. Bournemouth had tried to sign him in January, months before his explosion in form. Had it not been for a hamstring injury, Jackson could have been a cherry right now. In my opinion, Jackson's time at Villarreal is very similar to Drogba's time at Guingamp. You see, just like Jackson, Drogba really hit form in the second half of the 2002 season, where he scored 3 goals in 11 appearances, helping the club avoid relegation. But just like Jackson, there were doubts over Drogba despite the goals he was scoring. In France, the coaching staff remained unconvinced by the Ivorian. Same thing in Spain with Jackson. You see, while Jackson clearly had some glaring strengths, he also had some noticeable weaknesses. He was far from a finished article, and his boost in form at the end of the season, it seemed like an outlier more than anything else. His heading needed work, his touches in tight spaces weren't the best. Pause. And there were doubts about whether he could play as a sole number 9 against teams and defenders that would limit the spaces that he could run into. And keep in mind, just like Drogba, he was a newcomer to organized and professionalized football. Despite all these doubts though, Chelsea took a gamble on him, signing him on an 8-year deal for a reported £32 million. But almost immediately, Jackson was faced with criticism. In fact, besides the English weather, the biggest shock to Jackson was just how much scrutiny players were under. He couldn't believe that during the game, his own supporters were shouting at him to wake up. Then after the game, former players turned pundits would continue to criticism. Now the criticism was coming due to the fact that his start at Chelsea was very slow. In his first 10 appearances, he only got 2 goals. At one point, he had as many yellow cards as goals, as he picked up 7 bookings, causing him a 1-match suspension. And I'll keep it 100 with you guys. Some of the misses were dreadful. They looked ugly.
Sterling in behind, can he finish it here? Oh, it's stepped over by Jackson. What a miss!
But the thing is, struggling in front of goal as a new striker at Chelsea isn't something new.
When you go into Chelsea and, you know, you look at Torres struggled, Shevchenko struggled, Higuain struggled. Yeah. Big players have got it. There's a lot of expectation at a massive club to go in and be the number 9 that scores.
Drogba went through almost the exact same thing. Drogba only got 1 goal across his first 5 appearances for the Blues, before bagging a brace on his Champions League debut for the club. Just like Jackson, Drogba had also spoken about the criticism he received, both from fans and the opposition. As soon as I miss a chance, it's why did they spend so much money on him? Drogba told the BBC in January of 2005, 6 months after his arrival. With both players blooming late, they were still developing into their roles. Their numbers are quite similar as well. After their first 50 games, this is what their stats look like. Both scored the same amount of goals, but Drogba provided 4 more assists. In Drogba's first season at Chelsea, he got 16 goals in all competitions, while Jackson got 17 goals. 10 of Drogba's goals came in the Premier League, 14 of Jackson's goals came in the Prem. Of course, Jackson didn't have the opportunity to play in European competitions as Chelsea hadn't qualified for any of them. Keep in mind though, Drogba was 27 years old when he joined Chelsea, 4 years older than Jackson. Drogba also had time to develop his game even more at Marseille, while Jackson went straight from Villarreal to Chelsea. Drogba's career progression was a little bit more gradual, with him peaking in his late 20s, while Jackson's rise was quite rapid. Another interesting similarity between the two strikers is that they both have a midfielder that they have a great connection with. Drogba's duo was Frank Lampard. The two became the most prolific duo in Premier League history, combining with each other for 36 top-flight goals. Jackson has his own version of Lampard in the form of Cole Palmer.
Obviously, you've got the legends Frank Lampard and Didier Drogba when they combine for goals.
Cole Palmer and Nicolas Jackson way behind, but it's a new partnership, it seems, that's kind of forming.
Together they score goals and assists. I don't know exactly the right numbers, but they are helping us a lot.
Almost a third of the forwards' goals have been created by Palmer, while all but 3 of Jackson's assists have landed at Palmer's feet. If this duo continues to combine at the same rate, they are on course to actually pass Drogba and Lampard. And there is a great chance that they can do this because Jackson has really began to find his form under Maresca. He has been one of Chelsea's best players on the road and essential to the way that the Italian wants the Blues to play.
First of all, he's helping us a lot in the way we want to play because he's dropping, he's linking, and he's doing fantastic that.
Jackson has qualities that you can't coach. You can't teach someone speed, aggression, work rate.
Also Nicolas, off the ball, the way he's pressing.
These are qualities you either have or you don't. Those are Jackson's strengths. He doesn't stop running. He is tenacious both with and without the ball. The things that are actually his weaknesses are things that are teachable. Stuff like where to make a run, where to be positioned. That kind of things Maresca can teach him. If Jackson knows exactly what is required from him and where he has to be positioned, then he doesn't have to focus on anything else but performing. Jackson is still in the learning process. Despite people constantly trying to meme him, he's actually getting better and better. No one is saying he's the next Drogba, let me make that very clear. I know as soon as any African striker joins Chelsea, everybody wants to give him the label of the next Didier. But their play styles, they couldn't be any more different. Drogba was an aerial beast and a physically dominant player, while Jackson is more recognized for his pace and dribbling. The comparison I made with Didier Drogba is just to show that development in football is never linear. Drogba started his rise much later than Jackson, and he turned into one of the most feared strikers to ever play in the Premier League. What Jackson needs is patience and belief from the fans. He has all the qualities needed to become an elite number 9. Chelsea fans just need to continue having faith. Like, think about it, 6 years ago, this guy was playing with no shoes. Now he's leading the line for the biggest club in London. One player that will certainly help Jackson get to that top level is Cole Palmer. To see how Palmer has become the prince of Chelsea, you have to check out this video right here.